And I saw that even though I was preaching and teaching, they have no means to break it down to steps. And I knew that they needed XNet. Okay, so that's where, we were talking about it. They say, hey, rather than just keeping this to ourselves, I mean, it will be so much easier, just, I don't have to, it's just for us. But I felt that, the scripture comes to me, I think the Lord put this thought in me. If I come back and, it's too much, to whom is given, much more is required, I mean, that hit me so hard. I say that if I have something that can benefit somebody, why don't I share?
Welcome everyone. While I was in Singapore, I was able to meet with the Acts team that they have there. Today we talk about why Acts is different than any other church management system, how they came about developing Acts, why every church should have a CMS, and much more. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for opening up your studio so we could record this while here in Singapore.
You're most welcome.
It's so great having you guys on and to talk about AXNet. We've been using it for the past few years at the Pentecostals of Sydney. It's a great program, and I wanted to talk to you guys about this. So because I want the broader apostolic community to hear about this program. It's an amazing system. And so if we could start off with the sort of basics, what is ACTS? Charles, would you mind sharing?
So ACTS actually stands for Apostolic Care and Training System. And I think the name itself kind of explains it, that it's actually a church management system that helps to basically focus on two things. Facilitate care within the church, and also provide training to the people in the church. And I think this system really is very, very good because we design it in a way that really we emphasize on discipleship.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed is the biggest difference. A lot of the church management systems, it's about managing the church, it's about small groups, that sort of thing. But because you guys have that twofold approach where it's like you've got the management aspect, but then you also have the training aspect, which is so important. Yeah, and you make it quite easy to engage in that training through the system. It's all built in. You don't have to go outside of it to find that training, but you can find it within. In actuality, while I was talking to you guys about ACTS, I was looking through the different apps that you guys have. There's 2 different apps that we can use with the system. And I was looking at the personalized one. I just realized the other day that you could watch the training videos within the actual AXNet app, which is amazing. Like someone could just be on the train. They could be, traveling around at home and get training straight on their app through AXNet. So that's what I think sets you guys apart, and that's why I think it's so important that the broader community hears your story and hears about the product that you guys have, that you developed here in Singapore by the Apostolic Church here. And it's great to have you as well, Pastor Tim. Really look up to you, and we've had you on the podcast before, and but I wanted to ask you, this management system it's not an easy thing to do. How did you come about developing this ACTS system?
Well, I think being a church staff at that time, I was also a church staff, and I was the only church staff, and we realized that we need to have a better way of collecting data. People's address, phone numbers, especially when you have to communicate with people about things in the church, announcement. Yep. In the past, we have things like bulletin, but sometimes we need to do something that you got to call people, and then we got to find out the phone number. So we started off using, I started off using Microsoft Access, and I find it's too complicating. I have to start developing my whole database, which is, I'm stuck with only one PC. At that time, you don't have the internet. Okay?
Oh, my goodness.
So, if I leave my office, I'm done. Where do I get my phone numbers? We don't have mobile phones at that time. We got to have this directory,
a Rolodex back in the day.
You got to print it and you got to update it, and it's a lot of hassle. And then later on, we found something which is easier to use. We call it Lotus approach.
Okay.
Which is a much easier system, but it's not as complicated. You cannot set up queries and all kinds of stuff. So, we kind of stuck, and then come the internet age. Okay, I still remember, that US robotics, the modem, so wow, I thought that, that's a good thing. I think I got Brother Willoughby at that time to be the first few companies that subscribe. We became a subscriber, and we adopted the internet. It was slow at that time, so don't know what we can do with it. So slowly, gradually, become faster, and then we start recognizing there's a place for a website, and also broadcasting videos. At that time, it's Windows Media Video, So we were all in the transition. We saw the need of a tool. So then finally I got, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know really the name. I cannot remember the name. It's an online church. So I subscribed that for 1 month, for a year. And I realized, my goodness, this doesn't suit us at all. I'm paying for a service. Why do I pay for a service and I have to serve their needs rather than, they meet my need.
Right.
So then slowly and surely, it was actually in a mission trip, in Calcutta. We met a man, who was a programmer starting his business at that time, and I was sharing him my ideas, and he says, "Oh, you know what? Let's try it." And slowly that's version 1.
Creating your own
church
management system.
It wasn't that great, but we keep on improving. At the time, our finances was really not much at all. So there's only so much you can do because of the lack of resources. And he doesn't have the skill set yet at that time. But we challenge each other, and then we negotiated, and then we have version 1, and then we talk about our online training was separate from the database.
Yes.
Okay, we tried a lot of stuff. Okay, version 1, version 2, say, and we still got to get out of the system. So we literally, I don't like the word evolve, but we grew.
Yeah.
Okay, and I still remember getting fine-tuned certain things, and then we realized that by doing those things, it also reveals about our structure of the church. Because you cannot report if there's no sense to it. You can't program a software, okay, if there is no logic. And we realize, wow, there's so many missing links in our church organization.
Okay.
Who answer to what, and how can we program this? And so many times we never think about the big picture. And then when we come back and tell him, and my programmer look at me and say, Pastor, he will call me Pastor, it's better to redo the whole system. So whatever investment I made with the version 1, I have to throw it aside and start new. And we wanted this church system to grow.
Yeah.
That means, programming, if you know anything about programming, you can design in such a way that it's dead, and that's all. There's no room for growth. And that's what I find many of those online systems, right? They are like that. That's why I can't do much with it. I can't add fields. I can't do this, but nowadays it's getting better.
Yeah, as someone who has used your program for a number of years, it's constantly evolving.
Right.
It's constantly getting better.
Right.
And but what I'm hearing is it started off as a system that you designed specifically for Tabernacle of Joy, and then you're like, hey, well, I think other churches could use this as well. Yeah.
Correct.
And to me, it's amazing.
Right.
I couldn't even consider doing that. I've been working in church administration for 14 years, and I'm trying to find tools. I couldn't imagine creating my own thing, and that's what's so cool about your guys' story is that you saw a hole in the system. Yeah, you were using systems, but you thought, no, maybe there's a better way to do this.
Right.
And one that actually fits an apostolic culture, an apostolic church. And, we used management systems prior to AXNet. And we found, similar to you, what you were saying is that we had to change around, we had to fit around what they were wanting to do. As in, like, for example, one of them was a focus on small groups. And so we're thinking, okay, well, the system was based mainly around small groups, that was the most important thing. And it's because that was the most important thing in the church cultures that they were appealing to. But that's not the most important thing for us as apostolic. Small groups are great, but discipleship is the most important thing.
Right.
And that's why AxNet is so great, and it's I think every church should be using it. But I wanted to pick your brain a little bit. Why did you decide to take on this extra burden? Because you pastor a church, you pastor Tabernacle of Joy. You're involved in the field. You know, you're involved in mission work, traveling into the Philippines. You mentioned India. I know you've gone into China as well. You're a very, very busy man. Why did you decide to take on this extra burden of developing a software that has to continually develop? Like I said, it doesn't stay the same. AxNet is progressing.
Right. I think, if you go to mission fields, they ask you to teach, they ask you to preach. But, we all know that pastoring is more than teaching and preaching. It's organizing, the whole entire body. And I saw that even though I was preaching and teaching, they have no means to break it down to steps. And I knew that they needed AxNet. Okay, so that's where, we were talking about it. They say, hey, rather than just keeping this to ourselves, I mean, it would be so much easier, just, I don't have to, it's just for us. But I felt that, the scripture comes to me, I think the Lord put this thought in me. If I come back and, it's too much, to whom is given, much more is required, I mean, that hit me so hard. I say that if I have something that can benefit somebody, why don't I share it?
Yeah.
And Bishop, one of his favorite quotes is, if we help others build their church, God will help us build our church.
So true.
So, and I think one of the things that I love about AxNet is whether you want to go the small group route, whether you want to go to the traditional route, you are able to do it. And then you are able to transition to small group route, whatever route you want. So that's where the motivation, because I just don't want to preach, I don't want to teach, I just don't want to get people filled with the Holy Ghost and they not knowing what to do. They in some of these countries, home Bible studies are not popular at all. So, to manage a home Bible study is a lot of work, how many Bible studies, do you need replacement, all kinds of stuff, so they needed a system. So that's why we decided to just open up. And also, we need to hear from you guys to be better.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what's really cool about you guys is that you're open to suggestions from your customers, basically.
Right.
We're your customers.
Right.
And I know I've offered suggestions in the past, and you've taken it on board, and you've made changes to the system, which is amazing. I would never get that from a big brand if I was working with them. I remember one of the things which was so cool when we first switched over to Axe, and again, we were at like the beginning stages. You guys are way better and more advanced than you were back then. But I remember when we were setting up profiles, we had the profiles with our old system, and there was no, like, the question was, have they accepted Christ? There was nowhere where I could put filled with the Holy Spirit, baptized. Right. And then I went into AxNet, and like one of the first questions is, have they received the Holy Ghost? Have they been baptized? What date? And I'm like, this is so cool. This is for us. This is what we want to do.
Apostolic.
Exactly. Charles, I wanted to ask you, why do you think it's important that every church has a CMS? There are a number of churches that aren't even, they may not even know what we're talking about when we're talking about church management systems. They're using spreadsheets or whatnot. But why do you think it's important that every church uses one of these?
I think with the way technology and society has developed and progressed, we are living in an age, like what Pastor said, internet is no longer just a good to have. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
And with the cloud technology, with everything going digital, it's a now or never. And I think I would say it's always, it'll be too late to start later.
Yes,
and I think
right.
that, I encourage every church to take that step to get on board of like a online system of church management, because at the end of the day, it's all about data. And I think especially what the church does, is basically the most important call
Yeah.
of making disciples. And I always remember, the pastor always talks about this example about a hospital. You know, you wouldn't go to a hospital that doesn't keep your records.
Yeah, it's so true.
You'll be a bit scared, right?
Yeah.
You know, and what more, you know, us being the church, you know, caring for souls and winning souls and discipling them. And that every step is so important. Every step of the disciples' journey is critical to us. And if we do not keep those data, if we do not kind of like help our disciples plot their journey, you know, then we wouldn't know where they're going.
Yeah.
And to be able to bring all the different elements of discipleship into one platform, like what you said, we don't want to have a spreadsheet here, another software there, and you get, it affects the productivity at the end of the day also. I mean, for you as an administrator, you know how frustrating it can get
Oh, yeah.
to deal with so many different platforms, different formats. But if we could have one place where everything is on the same platform, it will make the whole process much effective, much more efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good answer about the hospital. I hadn't considered that, but that's such a good point. And one of the things that I like to talk about with church management systems is, especially for smaller churches, a smaller church, they'll be like, oh, I don't really need this. You know, we've only got X amount of members. I can track them on a spreadsheet or whatnot. I can easily keep track of everything on like a paper calendar. But I think it's so important to have this here because what it does is it multiplies you as the individual. If you're the pastor, you're the main caretaker, and you put in this system, you're now able to do so much more as one person because the information is coming to you. You don't have to call them. You don't have to text them. These things are being reported into the system, and then you're going in and you can review it for a few minutes each day and figure out where all the saints are at.
Yeah.
And then if you establish it when the church is smaller, as you get bigger, the culture's already there. And so the system-based culture would already be there within the church. And so then it's what we do. It's not something that has to be instituted once you hit some threshold. I think every pastor under 100, if they have a church under 100, and even if they're fully employed, I think it's vital for them to definitely have a church management system because you can only do so much as a singular pastor until you have expanded your staff. Church management systems allows you to expand that staff without hiring anyone.
Yeah.
You're just using this system, right?
One of the things, don't mind me just coming in, I think for me, what is really important is the ability to measure. You know, the Bible talks about being good stewards of God's resources. People are resources.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You know, and constantly I have to measure, okay, what does this, you know, number tells us something, but it doesn't tell us everything, but it's a good starting place. So what does the number tells me? You know, in the past where I say, you know, when I have going to churches, I ask questions like this, you know, they have no form or way of to measure because they don't collect data. You know, and they don't analyze data.
What you mean by that is like they don't know exactly where their disciples are at.
Correct.
So,
like for instance, just think about every Sunday service, right? You know, how many were in attendance? You know,
and
who was missing out?
Yeah, who was there?
Right. You know,
a number only tells you one thing, but
Right.
if you've got
Right.
a system that's telling you
Right.
that 40 people or that 60 people
Right.
are these 40 people, these 60 individuals,
Right.
they've come every single week. Or
Correct.
this person has missed a couple weeks.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, you know, the reason why we need a system is also to be effective in our troubleshooting. You know, like if I don't, you know, if you notice anything about computers, you know, like especially PC. Okay, I'm talking about PC, not Apple. PC, you know, the beep. You know, like when you turn on the computer, if there's one beep, okay, everything's going good, you know. But if there's like 3 or 4 beeps telling you troubleshoot, whether it's the graphics card is off, you know, likewise, you know, in the reason why we keep records is that not just to measure, but also to troubleshoot what is going on. You know, when we see the Bible studies not being taught, what's going on?
Why isn't it being taught?
Yes, why is it not being taught? You know, we don't want to wait 12 weeks down the road and we realize, hey, this guy did not even finish the class.
Yeah.
You know, and it's too late. You know, and timing is everything. You know, and I think that for a pastor, all I need to look is that data don't lie. You know, but like what I say, you will take a a bit of a learning curve for everybody to get on board.
Yes.
You know, again, this system is only effective if everybody will do their part.
Right.
Okay.
And but it is extremely effective
Yes.
if you are using it. What do you believe separates Acts from the rest of the CMS? So we've talked a little bit about it, but if you can go a little bit more
So
detail.
I think like what we did discuss earlier is about that focus on discipleship, and I think that when we started, developing Acts, and when we were brainstorming about the kind of features that we want in this system, it didn't just come from a good idea out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like what Pastor said, many times we go back to the Word, we go back to the Bible, and we look at the principles that are in there, and we, from those principles, we begin to implement features that would help us achieve those principles, whether it's accountability, even we talked about structure earlier in the church. We implemented a reporting system that will be able to facilitate like the Jethro principle of small groups within our system, which we couldn't find in other CMS out there. And even putting training available. You talk about training on the go. Everyone is busy nowadays, and if we could put training in the hands of our disciples when they are on their commute, they can just pull up their apps and they can just get trained. They watch the videos that they need to. And so we are also making things very effective for not just ourselves as administrators or church staff, but even for the people that we are discipling.
Yeah.
That they, when they are on board the system, they feel that, hey, this is adding value to me as a disciple. Yeah.
And we haven't really even gotten into scheduling features, which is amazing for churches who have a number of volunteers, keeping people from getting scheduled at the same time, which happens if you're not using a system like this. You can easily double book someone for volunteering. But yeah, I keep going back to the discipleship aspect because it's just there's nothing else like it, and it's so vital. Again, going back to a smaller church, a pastor, you might not have the ability to have a discipleship course. Maybe you're bivocational, and you might be teaching a Bible study already to an individual, a couple Bible studies. You might be doing a midweek service, or you're doing a midweek small group. Your nights are taken up. But if you want a number of people within your church, they've finished the Bible study, they've been born again, but you still want them to continue the discipleship process, you can book a lesson for them or a subject that you want them to cover, and it's delivered through the app, and they can watch it right there, and then you can check what are they learning. It's almost like an online, it's not like an online university, but it's somewhat similar, and you can track the discipleship progress without you having to take up another night. That person is still getting discipled, but it's more effective, right? More efficient, I guess is the right word. So if anyone wants to learn more about the system, about Acts, where should they go?
So I think the best way to do it is actually to get on a video call with us, with our team, to get a demo session. I think the best way to kind of get to know more is for us to kind of show what the ins and outs of this system is able to do, and at the same time kind of also find out the needs of our customers, like what exactly you are looking for to kind of like improve.
Yeah, you have different tiers as well, right?
Correct. Different plans that, you may feel like, hey, I don't think I can implement all of this at one go. And we agree, we don't expect everybody to be on the highest tier because it may not be realistic at that point in time. And so we are always there to kind of, at the same time, scaffold, different of our customers, whether we will want to suit their needs. I think that's the end goal, like what Pastor said. We are not here for our customers to serve our needs, but we are here to serve their needs and where they are at this point in time in their church. And of course, another way is to just sign up for either a starter account that is free, or there's a 14-day trial for one of our mid-tier plans, and you can try it for yourself.
Yeah. And what's the website again?
xnet.org.
All right, and we'll have that on the show notes of this episode and plastered everywhere so you guys can find that. So thank you so much, guys, for your time today, especially for letting us use the studio for this. This is probably the best episode I've ever had, best looking episode I've ever had. But as we finish up here, was there anything else that you would like to share, Pastor Tim, about Acts or about this in general?
We are here wanting to learn as well. I hope that this platform, if you look at the platform, you can always add on new discipleship classes. And again, we recognize if we can put everything into one place, we can collaborate. Our goal is really more of collaboration, especially when we have new church plants, or they never have an administrator before. I'm very scared of administration, okay, because that's not my strongest point. But with XNet, it makes administration so easy. When people look at our system at first, they get a bit overwhelmed, but you don't have to use everything. I always tell people, you don't have to use everything. You start off by inputting the names, getting a feel of it, and you realize that, notifying your saints is so much easier because we have a notification app and you don't have to use WhatsApp or whatever.
It's free. It's free to notify.
Free.
Yeah.
And then there's an app ready both for Android and iOS, right?
Yep.
So again, we are always looking for partnership. If we're going to reach the world, it's going to be together. That's why I love, our goal is also just to collaborate with other churches, and you have offer us many good suggestions. We take it on, we implement it right away, and then it's a win-win situation. So that's what we like to see happen in XNet.